happy to take questions in Spanish, but I need to come to South America more often so that I can practice. I'm very happy to be here, and I just wish I were with you in Lima. Greetings and a virtual pisco sour to everybody in Peru. Policies and procedures are not enough. Something that the last speaker showed on his slides was a list of problems that come up. On top of the list there was corruption. And this is really the topic that I'd like to get to, because we find it very difficult to deal with corruption. It's part of the characteristics that the individuals on projects have to demonstrate, that they have ethics. And so it's a topic nobody wants to talk about. So let me think about it. Ethics is the spirit of how we do our projects. And any professional association, you'll find, has a code of ethics. And what does that mean? And do we enforce it? In the UK, we have the Association for Project Management. And when we were working on becoming a chartered organization, we were told that we had to have our code of ethics, which had teeth. What does that mean? But what it meant was that the code of ethics had to have some way of punishing people or dealing with people who ignored it. And this doesn't happen very often. We did have an occasion where a project manager on a government project in the UK had taken money that didn't belong to him. And when the case went to court, he was fined and he was sent to prison, but he was also expelled from the professional association. So ethics and corruption is something that has to be tackled at every level, at national level, at association level, on projects, and for individuals. Every level must participate in looking after our ethics. I have some very fine colleagues in Iceland who produced a very useful book, which you can look at, Project Ethics. This Project Ethics book was produced, and it's useful for individuals to read. It's useful for project managers to look at and to work with on their teams. It actually has a lot of definitions in there. What does it mean? It means doing the right thing. Now, a lot of project management activities are very subjective, and this is one of them. Another of my colleagues produced a book which is called The Right Project Done Right. What does that mean? It means, are you doing the right thing for your customers, for your clients, for the people you're working for? Is it the right project to be doing? And it's a question that I often ask myself when I've been asked to take part in a project. I'll say, why am I doing this? And in my book, my head, the most important question that any project manager has to answer, or has to ask himself or herself, is, why am I doing this? What's this about? Is this the right thing to be doing now? I'm putting a new railway line in. We have an example here in the United Kingdom at the moment. We're putting a high-speed line, and we have a big debate about where it should go. Is this the right thing to do, to spend all this money now? And who's going to benefit from it? This is all part of the ethical questions. And these are not the things that we find very often in the bodies of knowledge. These are things that we have to learn and that we work on, and they're part of our characteristics. I think that about myself, that there's a large part of me which has been educated by universities, by colleges, by schools, by whatever. There's another large part of me, which is in my spirit and my heart. And this is to do with my beliefs and what I think is important. And this comes not from books, this comes from my parents, the way I was brought up. So it's quite a difficult topic to talk about. But I can't possibly say how you have to go back to your parents and say, you taught me wrongly. That doesn't work. But I think it's something we ought to think about. Here in the United Kingdom, we have a system of helping ourselves to make sure that projects run as effectively as possible. We have a government body called the National Audit Office. And the National Audit Office is impelled or forced to look at all expenditure of public money. And they will come up with values and reports on any projects, and they say whether it's good value for money, whether it's the right thing to be done or not. And they don't just do this and produce a report out of nowhere. They then have to report back to a committee of the House of Commons, to our Parliament. And then if there's something that comes up of interest, it goes to a lot of people and it gets a lot of publicity. If there's been a mass overspend on a project, then the public will very soon get to know about it. So we have this system of making sure that we can try to keep track of how money is being spent and whether it's being spent in the right way on the right things. This is our Public Accounts Committee. They're a very fierce body. They do cause a lot of difficulty for people who've done things wrong. So at a government level, we're trying to do something about it. At project level, this I think is part of the responsibility of every project leader, to make sure that things are being done with the right code of ethics behind them, to make sure that we're not doing anything wrong. And for individuals, we've got to look at it as well. I don't know, I think this is an interesting topic. Do you think it's interesting? Do you understand me? Are you giving me lots of questions in the chat? I'm having some, I hope some. Right, what else do I have to say? I'm going to tell you a story. It's a funny story, really, but it does show something of the difference that government projects have to others. Now, this story, it's told by an old colleague, one of my old tutors called Russell Ackoff, who's no longer with us anymore. But he repeated this story about, in one of his books on systems thinking, the tribal wisdom of the Dakota Indians. When you discover that you're riding a dead horse, the best strategy is to dismount. Do we agree on that? Makes sense. However, in government, more advanced strategies are often employed, such as buying a stronger whip, changing riders. This is a really exciting one. Appointing a committee to study the horse. Remember what we're doing. We're looking at a project, which is in a bad way. We're riding a dead horse. So we're going to appoint a committee to study the horse. Arranging to visit other countries to see how other cultures ride horses. How many government commissions do you see going from one country to another, looking at things? Lowering the standards so that dead horses can be included. Reclassifying the dead horse as living impaired. This is a good one. Hiring outside contractors to ride the dead horse. How often do you see that? A project which is going wrong, somebody decides to change all the management. So someone else gets the blame. Harnessing several dead horses together to increase speed. providing extra funding, training to increase the dead horse's performance. We see that too, don't we? Government bodies look together on how they do things. Doing a productivity study to see if lighter riders would improve the dead horse's performance. Declaring that the dead horse does not have to be fed, it's less costly, carries lower overheads, and therefore contributes substantially more to the bottom line of the economy than a live horse. That makes sense, doesn't it? No, it's an economic, it's a saving having a dead horse. This is a really excellent one. Rewriting the expected performance requirements for all horses. And of course, the most important of all, promoting the dead horse to a supervisory position. Now, I think there's lots of things in there that make you laugh. I hope they've made you laugh. But there are an awful lot of things that happen, really. We do set up bodies to look at things that have gone wrong. We go off, but again, I think you have to go back to the beginning and ask the most important question of all. Why are we doing this? Is this important? Is this the right thing to be doing? And if we have a code of ethics, can we be sure that people are keeping to it? How do we manage it? These are just a few thoughts, and I'm sorry that they're in English, but I hope that you've understood. And do you have any questions for me? Any questions in the chat? Nobody said anything. No?
Hello,
Jose?
Mary. Yes, I am here. Yes, I am here, Mary.
Do we
Thank
have
you.
any questions?
Yes, I do have a question, Mary.
Yes, please. Turn on.
Yeah, hello, nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you too.
In the case of the government, sometimes the government, especially in Latin America, they are not very clear about the code of ethics because especially in the provincial governments, in the regional governments, they sometimes fall in corruption, and the society sometimes doesn't have enough ways to react to that. And sometimes because also the corruption, it is not only in the central government, but also in the judge, in the justice, in the system of justice.
Yes.
So sometimes it's a very complex corruption structure. And sometimes the citizens are very much discouraged because of this situation.
Yeah.
No,
And
so
to interfere. This is why I mentioned the project management professional associations, because I think that all project management professional associations have a responsibility to look after this particular issue. And it sometimes will bring them in conflict with government, sometimes bring them in conflict with other people. But if no one else is doing it, and the structure of society is such that there's no real way of getting to it, then I think it has to be down to one of the main functions of the professional association. And that's a hard thing to take on. But we've had
many people here in Peru especially begin to talk about ethics when big problems arises. But when everything is going all right, people do not talk about ethics. I think that ethics is part of our daily journey.
It's a little thing. It's everything. It's part of our daily existences.
Yeah.
And we talk about striving for excellence in our project management. And the moment that you start saying, well, it's good enough, it's all right. We're not going after being excellent. That's part of your ethical system. It allows you to say, I don't have to really do that. It's not important.
Mhm.
So but I think it does go down to all the professional bodies.
Mhm.
We've had quite a lot of discussions. We've had several working parties in IPMA
Mhm.
at executive board level. I've worked on several working parties on
Mhm.
ethics.
Yeah, in this Congress yesterday, Reinhardt says that for him, the member associations of IPMA are too much engaged with the business, and they should take care more about the society. And the university can help also to do that. And today, so yesterday he gave a good recommendation for the member association to be more to work more with the university, to inspire more, to educate more to the people that belong to that association, and to say, and today you are saying something that is very important that I realize just today, right now, is that we have to work on ethics. We have to write articles in the newspaper talking about ethics.
We do.
Big, no, and this is very, very important, especially in these days in Latin America, I would say. No, this is other in charge we have to work on, I think. This is very good.
I think it is important. We don't talk about it very much,
Yep.
but we should. We need to do, because and the universities, and we've had several presentations today talking about education, and I don't see anywhere in our bodies of competences and things, I don't see anywhere anything that refers to ethics. But I think it's something that we should be working on. We should need to do this because we need to do better jobs. We can't afford to have too many dead horses. We don't want all these projects going wrong. And we don't want to have lots of working parties looking at dead horses. We want to make things work.
Mhm.
Yep. Thank you.
Excelente. Thank you very much.
Do we have any more? Can I
Yes,
look after anybody?
we have another question.
Good.
Yes, it's related with the complexity. It says, sometimes we think that a standard or a methodology will magically solve our biggest problems or complex problems. What is the best way to deal with complexity in project management?
Oh, can I stay for 2 hours? I need a lot.
This is very good. You can stay, Mary, no problem.
A complex question, a complex question.
Yeah, no, complexity is a topic that I find really interesting. And the thing is, it doesn't come with a label on that says, this is complex. Complexity is something that creeps up on you. And you suddenly find that something that you thought was quite straightforward has, for a variety of reasons, had a lot of interactions at different levels and has become complex. So we don't set off. I mean, if you look around, you can see lots of books. Down here, I can pull out Power of Projects, Systems Thinking for Complexity, Tools for Complex Projects. That's a lot. Goes on for a long time. But the thing is that it's recognizing that you're in a situation where things are likely to be more complex than you thought they were. It creeps up on you. You get interactions between things. In my working career as a systems engineer, we had very many complex projects because if you're building something like a submarine, there are lots and lots of systems which interact. And you build all the systems, and on their own, they work very well. When you put them together, it becomes more complex. So I think the thing, my advocacy is always that we should think systemically about projects. If you look at something and you have a problem, don't focus down on the problem. Look at the whole system and say, where is it going wrong? An example that I like is, had somebody who was having problems with his car, and he was having punctures in one of his tires on a very, very regular basis. And always things were going wrong with the tires on his car. And so he went to the garage and had the tire changed. And then one of the mechanics in the garage looked at the suspension of the car. And somebody else had another look, and it still kept happening. What was going wrong? It was only when somebody started to look at the way that the man drove the car and the place where he lived that they realized that he was having problems with his tires because he had a problem with his eyesight, which meant that he was knocking into a curb, and the curb was causing problems with the tires. So a complex problem can have a source that isn't where you even think it is. So it's looking at the wider picture, the whole thing of what you have in on your project. It was nothing to do with the quality of the tires. It was to do with the way that it was being driven and written. Does that help? Is it a different way of looking at things? Because that's what I'd like you to do, to start thinking about. We use that dreadful phrase, thinking outside the box, but no, it's thinking not just at the details. We're ever so good. Human beings are very good at detail. We go in and we inspect things, and we're very good at getting out a screwdriver and solving out little problems. But you have to look at the way the whole thing works. And it's a systemic approach, for me, is the way that we're going to sort out our complex projects. Where did my question come from?
¿De dónde vino la pregunta, José Luis?
This is a question from my side, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, does that help?
Yes, with the example of the tires, I think it helps. Yes.
Good.
Comes from northern Peru. José Luis is in northern Peru.
Okay. Do I have any more questions?
Actually, don't have any more questions for now.
No. In that case, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope it's useful. If anybody's interested in books to read, I like this one, Systems Thinking for Curious Managers by Russ Ackoff. That's where the dead horse story came from, because I like it, but it fits. And he has an approach to things. He produces a lot of new management laws, and there's a new management law here called improving communication between the parts of an organization may destroy it, which is different.
Yeah.
But this, I think, is a really, really useful book. It's been around for a few years, but it's worthwhile looking at. And the project ethics one I like too. But if we get to start talking about books on project management, we do have a bit of a library.
Mm-hmm.
I have my supervisor here. Keeping an eye on they have to take part in all these activities. Right.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Well, thank you.
Warm regards.
And please, can I come when you have a face-to-face conference next time?
Please, we will
Because
will
by
do.
then, I mean, I could practice my Spanish and it would be much better.
Much better, yeah. Take care and thank you. Muchas gracias,
Gracias.
Mary.
Okay,
Cuídate.
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Bye-bye.